Welcome back to the Lipoedema Podcast. We are your host, Shell.
And Tiana, and today we have a warrior story from a very special guest, a Brisbane-based mum of 2 girls. It is Ashley Gordon. Ashley, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's so nice to have our warrior stories. My favourite, listening to all of your experiences. So let's get into it. How did you come to learn of lipedema, and when was that?
So weirdly, I became aware of lipedema when I actually was diagnosed with postnatal depression after the birth of my first child, who is now 9. And my doctor who was treating me actually flagged lipedema with me. I'd never heard of it before because I'd been talking to her about how big my legs seemed to get out of proportion to the rest of my body, particularly after pregnancy. But I'd always had what I thought were different legs to everybody else, and particularly being quite petite. I'm not very tall, and my legs always just look different. And so she actually flagged it with me. I've never heard of it before.
Wow.
That's refreshing, isn't it?
It really is.
Yeah. So it's weird that a psychiatrist was who actually knew about it. Yeah.
And that was your usual doctor, or was it a new doctor? Or
It was a newish doctor who'd just been treating me for the postnatal.
Yeah.
So, it was sort of a side issue that I'd sort of mentioned to her, I think in passing. And perhaps I might have even been wearing something where she could probably see the swelling, particularly even in my lower legs. And she's like, yeah, have you heard of this condition? I still remember sitting there to this day and being like, sorry, what? And I was like, maybe there's actually a reason why my legs are the way that they are. And it sort of all came together after that.
So that was, did you say 9 years ago?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was probably treated for the PND. I was a bit late with that. So it was probably about 8 years ago. So my daughter was actually almost 12 months. And she referred me to one of the lipedema doctors at the Gold Coast. And I went to see him, and he's like, yeah, you definitely have it. Yeah. And it sort of went from there.
Wow. How long between your psychiatrist mentioning it to you going to see that specialist at the Gold Coast, was it?
It probably wasn't very long, to be honest. At the time, I think I was able to get into him reasonably quickly. I think that's probably changed now as more awareness has come with lipedema. But yeah, it wasn't too long at all. I didn't really take any action until after that, and I probably did a lot of my own Googling. And just even symptoms and things that I had no idea was lipedema started to make sense. I didn't really know what pain I was in until I'd had MLD and things like that, and I've almost tripped over my own feet walking out because they felt so light. Because it's a chronic condition, you're living with it, and you don't even realize that this is not what everybody deals with.
Yeah, that discomfort just becomes normal. You don't realize that
It really
everyone...
does.
Yeah.
It really, really does. And I've just recently had surgery, 2 surgeries, as you might know. And that became very obvious as well when one leg was done and the other wasn't.
Yeah.
It was quite unbelievable, really, the difference.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to getting into that part of your journey a little bit later on in our episode. So I'm very curious to know whether you'd been searching for answers about your leg prior to your psychologist sort of mentioning it.
I wouldn't say so. It always was just something that didn't make sense to me. So even as a teenager, I was actually very, very slim, naturally slim. But my legs were still disproportionate to the rest of my body. In particular, I had that lumpy cellulite appearance. So I just thought I had horrendous cellulite. And sometimes I would even comment like I felt like a 90-year-old woman. That's what my legs felt like. And so I probably hid them a lot, was very self-conscious about it. But I just assumed it was from maybe not having the best diet in my teens, that I have eaten too many potato chips or that kind of thing. But yeah, no, it was lipedema.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's so amazing once you get your diagnosis, everything sort of falls into place, and all the things that you rationalized in your past, whether it be your pain or the way your body looks, sort of comes together like this big puzzle.
Absolutely. And even like I've always hated running. I have never been able to run, and it all made sense. I was like, that's because I'm carrying around concrete legs. No wonder I don't
Yes.
want to run. So yeah, it all made sense. But I suppose after diagnosis then is what do I do now? Is this my life? Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So you mentioned when you were younger, you were naturally slim, but your legs, you sort of recognized that your legs were different. When do you believe that your lipedema started to develop?
I would say as early as perhaps 12.
Mm-hmm.
I was quite an early developer. And yeah, I think particularly around that 14, 15 was when I really started to notice it. It's odd though, when I look back in photos, I can't see it.
Mm.
But obviously I could feel it. And just that lumpiness of the skin, and particularly starting sort of on the back of the thighs, it really did just start like looking like cellulite. And I was like, well, I'm very young to have cellulite. And so, of course, you try cellulite creams, which obviously they don't really work anyway. They just minimize the appearance. And look, I used to look at my own mum and she had legs like that.
Mm.
And I was like the rest of her body did not look like that. So it's really interesting reflecting back. So I'd say, yeah, probably as early as 12, but definitely really sort of making itself more known around 14, 15. So the teenage years.
Yeah. And in those early stages, I think it is more of a feeling than
Mhm.
visual. Like it's not a real visual disproportion.
Mm,
Yeah, the
yes.
cellulite and the dimpling, but it's the
Mm,
heaviness. And you just feel your legs are different,
Mm.
like in
yeah.
those early stages, because all those systems are still compromised. It just hasn't progressed as much yet.
No. And you're also blaming yourself, like, why am I not good at sport? And everybody else is. Why do I find running so difficult? Why am I so tired all the time? And there's so many other things you go looking for to try and come up with solutions. And they
Yeah.
just don't quite fit ever.
Yeah. And there's always that self-blame associated with it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we
And
always think,
yeah.
if I'd done this differently, if I hadn't have done
Mm-hmm.
this, if I was only more disciplined, if I was only more motivated. And it's not until we get that diagnosis, we're like, I've been
Yeah.
working against this thing the
Mm.
whole time.
Yeah.
And it still does.
That's
That still
heavy.
does
That's
come up. Yeah. It still does sit there a little bit, especially if I had known.
Mm.
But yeah, you just do the best you can at the time, I suppose, with what you know.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
And, when it progresses through your formidable years of being through your puberty and being a
Mm-hmm.
teenager, like you shouldn't have to think about that stuff. Really, you should be concentrating on being a kid.
There's
Totally.
so many changes are happening then. Like
Yeah.
our brains, we're
Mhm.
rewiring, we're moving more into our friend groups and away from our
Yep.
families, and we're figuring out who we are and what we like, what we don't like. And to have that on top of it, it just really impacts every other aspect of our
And
lives at age.
definitely. And that also, I was actually ironically bullied very heavily in primary school and high school for being thin.
Wow.
And so I would overeat to try and gain weight. And that combined with probably the self-esteem and the confidence around my legs and how I look generally, that is something I still do carry through today. That this is the final piece of my puzzle that I'm dealing with now. So yeah,
Yeah.
Because we're
it's
developing our core beliefs there too,
Yeah.
like
for sure.
in around that time, like, and to rejig those core beliefs, that's a lot of heavy work.
Yes, especially when, you're not finding out that you have lipedema until 8 years ago.
Yeah.
That's a long time with some very distorted core beliefs
Yeah,
or
For
incorrect.
sure.
It's incorrect.
yeah, that's right. And so in those early like puberty days, you notice your legs were a little different, but they were like your mum's. So,
Mhm.
were there any other times where you believe there was a progression?
Yes. So ironically, when I was being treated with postnatal, I went on a medication that's well known for weight gain. And ever since then, I was only on it for a couple of months, but ever since then, my lipedema has progressed significantly. I think even more than pregnancy did.
Yeah.
And I have struggled with weight gain ever since then. So I've spoken to a few of my specialists and they've said that this particular medication, they don't know much about it, but they suspect it does something to the metabolism and insulin resistance, which then affects obviously lipedema and all of that sort of stuff as well. So I really do think that that was quite a contributing factor to me getting a lot worse. Obviously, pregnancy never helps. Yeah, so it's probably, again, those hormonal changes and stressful periods when I was working, doing really long hours and a lot of stress, I think. But again, it's really hard I try not to think about that one a little bit because I'm like, well, it's again, I don't want to blame myself.
We can only control so much.
Yes. And
You know
I
what I mean?
certainly have
Certain things are
regrets taking
outside
that
of our
medication,
control.
but what can I do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm learning to accept it, actually. Yeah, acceptance is a huge thing.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And you got to, well, for me, I know that I'm like, okay, I'm doing everything to look after my body, but there's only so much I can control. So as
Absolutely.
long as I know I'm looking after my body, I'm doing the best things for it. And for my mental health, I need to just go, okay, I can't control that, only how I look at it.
And
Yeah.
I've heard a really good saying, I think it's in acceptance and commitment therapy, that acceptance is peace and acceptance is freedom. And it's really gentle. It's like, you don't have to be okay with it. You just have to accept what is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely struggle with the acceptance and I suppose the surrendering. And I wonder if it's like generationally, and I don't know if you identify this with this, ladies, but you know, our parents were always like, if you work hard, then results will come. Like that was just always the rhetoric in my generation of growing up, because they lived in a world where if they worked hard, financially, socially, and all that stuff, the payoff was there. And then this time in our lives, that socially and financially, that's not the case. You have to kind of work smarter and strategically, but also with our condition, effort doesn't equal outcome. And so it's never been this thing. It's always been like, well, I've got to work harder.
Yeah.
I've got to work harder. And then you just exhausted because you have to work harder. And then the no outcome just means that I didn't work hard enough. That's so hard.
There's a lot of blame. Yeah. A lot of blame there too.
Yeah. But you're right. Like that acceptance is key.
Yeah.
I'm not there yet.
No, and I don't think it's clear cut either. And some days I feel great about it, and other days I don't.
Yeah. And it's not linear. Like anything, any sort of healing, whether it's physical healing, emotional healing, it's not linear. Like every day is going to be different. So I actually I don't know, the other day I was just making my breakfast and I decided to just slowly make it instead of rushing doing everything. I was just slowly making my breakfast. And this thought just come to my head and I was like, when we're safe, we can start releasing some of the stress and the weight we've put on. And I just had this wash of just calm come over me. And it was just this beautiful moment. I don't know. And I'm like, that's what acceptance is, isn't it? It's just this, it washes over you every now and then. It was just, I need to bottle that shit. That was.
Yeah. Yes. Oh, I wish. There'd be no such thing as therapists either then, would there?
Even that sense of slowing down, like I don't think I do anything intentionally slowly because I'm just trying to get through the next part and the next part and the next part. And I can imagine that I'm not alone in that, like this time of our lives and this time in the world.
And our lifestyles.
Yeah, our lifestyles is full of
it makes it very hard. Like I would love, ironically, not to have technology in some ways.
Yeah.
But it's impossible.
Yeah.
And there's certainly so much good that comes out of technology, but sometimes I think, it really does make it really hard for you to slow down. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes, it's constantly there.
I was thinking the other day about, I have my phone and my work emails are on my phone and my personal emails are on my phone. And then I have my watch attached to my phone. So my phone's going off during the week on like work all day. Ping, 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 ping. Same time. My phone goes off. I anticipate the feeling of my watch going off. So there's this anticipation with every ping. And I think, why don't I just take off my watch?
Yeah.
But I can't.
I know. Yeah. I feel lost without
They
mine.
don't talk to each other anymore.
I know. I'm addicted to the making sure I don't miss something important.
Yeah.
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 So dumb. Why?
And the irony is, I think our brains were never really meant to deal with all of this.
So true.
It's really, really difficult. Yeah.
Yeah. hard managing all the demands.
Yeah, and I wonder whether if we lived in a time where that wasn't the case and we didn't have to be so on top of everything, that getting a diagnosis like we've gotten would be easier in some
Easier.
way to manage because we can sit with it. Like there's an
Mhm.
element of pausing and thinking and stopping and absorbing.
Yeah.
And then,
Actually,
like you said, there are two sides of the coin because there's so much value in that, but then there's also the community aspect. But then there's also comparisons with other people. And I was thinking about it the other day. I'm like, I wonder how different I would feel about myself if I didn't have social media or comparisons generally. Yeah, it was just a really open-ended question to myself. But yeah, it's definitely
Yeah, it's
something that
social
comes up.
media and it's mirrors. Like, because even if you didn't have social media, you're out in the wild and you compare yourself to people that you see.
Mhm.
But also, we are so cognizant of what we look like because we have mirrors everywhere now in our houses.
Yes.
Mirror in my bathroom. I have a full length mirror in my wardrobe. We have a mirror at the front door. There's mirrors everywhere. And I'm like, you're very hyper aware of what you look like at any given moment.
yeah.
And so that comparison would be really hard not to do. And social
Mm.
media just amplifies that.
Yep.
Especially because in social media, not everybody is giving their true self. Like there's a lot of Facetune and body.
Don't know what you're actually looking at
You
is real
don't.
or not.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that's
So
and it's
true.
hard to be discerning about it because you just you don't
Yeah.
know.
You don't know.
You don't know.
Now, Ash, you have a social media account that you share your lipedema journey on. Can you just talk
Mhm.
a little bit about what drove you to have a page like that?
Yeah. Excuse me. I think it originally started as just trying to connect with others in the community and learn a bit more about the condition. So it originally started, just connection and also me just documenting all the things that I was trying. I think one of the first things I put on there was me starting the keto diet, which just a spoiler, it didn't work for me, not good for me. And I really admire other people who can stick with it, but it just made me super miserable. Documenting a lot of that and just the challenges around trying to do your best. After I was first diagnosed, I felt very overwhelmed by all of the noise about what I should be doing, which could really take up my entire day and my entire mind space. I realized it did take me a while, but I did realize after a while that that was not a healthy way for me to live, and to filter some of that noise and just end up going with what I found was most effective and worked with my lifestyle, in particular having children as well in the mix. And their needs and making sure that I was meeting those as well. So then the page sort of morphed into fashion. I'm not actually sure. I think I just started to put out some clothing ideas as my legs were getting bigger, of what styles of clothing I was finding comfortable and worked for me. And now it's sort of become a mismatch of lipedema generally, surgery, fashion, even though I have no fashion experience or expertise whatsoever. And then obviously a little bit of melanoma advocacy and stuff thrown in there as well. But yeah, it's a bit of a mixed bag.
Yeah, I like that. You bring yourself.
Yeah, that's right.
We are
and
all
sometimes,
Yeah.
I used to post a bit about parenting. I have pulled back from that a little bit. I've never really put pictures of my kids on. That was just a choice that my husband and I have made. But sometimes I would talk about the difficult times. But sometimes I would get some pretty harsh comments from other people who don't know me. Oh, saying I'm a whinger and blah, blah, blah. So I just decided to just keep that part out a little bit more. But yeah, I'm still very honest about lipedema and the struggles. So particularly with surgery, the ups and downs, and even like wearing compression in the heat in Queensland. Just having a good old whinge about that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, because that sucks. Well, I'm glad that was a beautiful segue because I wanted to ask you now, how are you managing your lipedema now?
So it has changed a bit from so I had my first leg surgery in May and my second in July at the start of each month. So yeah, I'm sort of 11, 12 weeks, I think, on the second leg. So pre-surgery, there was a little bit of prep. And again, I put a lot of pressure on myself that I need to be doing X, Y. And I felt like I didn't wear my compression as much as I should have. But then I spoke to beautiful Sally, who had said to me, look, you've done your best. I just found the compression really uncomfortable. But now post-op, I wear compression constantly. I've just, post-surgery has sort of shown me what things work for me and what don't. So again, I found the Lymphapress pump up to my abdomen was not quite right for me. I felt I have a few gut issues, which always complicates things. And I felt that it pushed fluid up to my upper body, which even though I had done manual lymphatic drainage, that wasn't quite right for me. So I went back to the, is it the LX9 MediRen pump?
Is that just the legs?
works. Yeah, just the legs up to the thighs. And I just find that works better for me. But yeah, I have lots of compression now. My lovely lymphatic practitioner says I could open a shop. It's really bad. But again, I have ones for when it's really hot, ones for when I might be feeling a bit bloated in the tummy. Yeah, so I am wearing compression every day, comfy wave at night, which I love, 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 love. And weirdly in Queensland, I don't get that hot wearing it at night. It doesn't bother me that much. But yeah, vibration plate is something that works really well for me. And interestingly, pre-surgery, I didn't feel like MLD made an enormous difference, but that was probably the stage of my lipedema mixed with some secondary lymphedema, where it was just so clogged, there was nowhere for the fluid to go. When now I am finding I'm doing weekly MLD and I walk out, my pants fall off. It's been really good. And just moving that swelling around post-op and working on the scar tissue has been really good as well.
And is that the end of your surgical journey, Ash?
Hopefully for now. I am also on Mounjaro on starter dose. So way back when my second child was born and she's just turned 5, I spent 12 months trying to lose weight and again, just kept gaining by making some really positive food and exercise changes. So I went on the old-fashioned Saxander, which was one of the original ones. Unfortunately, it made quite a mess of my gut, mixed with some pretty strong antibiotics I had to be on for surgical reasons, not related to lipedema. And so I then changed to Mounjaro this time last year. And I've just been on the starter dose and I've been off it for quite a few months due to the surgery. But I really have found the inflammation impact have been great. Obviously, the food noise for me has really stopped because my brain was trained when I was younger to eat, sort of based on that stuff that we talked about. So that food noise and just making more nutritious choices without really having to think much about it. And yeah, with that comes, I'm working towards body acceptance. But yeah, that's certainly helped as well. Sorry, I don't know whether I answered your question.
Yeah, you did. Well, you spoke about your surgeries, your lymphatic pump, the vibration plate, and then we went into medication like Mounjaro and Sandexter. So I think is there anything else in that you wanted to mention before we move?
I can't really think of anything else. I would like a rebounder and stuff one day, but yeah, it all costs so much money, as you know, and that's a huge issue for women with lipedema is that a lot of this costs money and a lot of money. Yeah.
Finding the time to do all the things.
Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And
especially
even
doing it consistently because that's like the kicker. That's the thing that makes it work. It's like, well, how do I carve out an hour a day, every single day, to do these things?
Yeah. And it really is about an hour for me at the moment, I would say, give and take, which most nights when the kids are having their shower, that's when I do most of I do MLD in the shower. And then I'm using the Farad Beauty LED to massage my legs, which has been really good. I do have like a dome LED light, so I'm looking into paying someone to do that on the scar line, but I realized it was cheaper for me just to buy a decent one myself.
Yep.
So a couple of times a week I do that, and then I'll hop on the vibration plate just to kind of get things moving. But yeah, it does take about... They're pretty good. I think my second surgery scar is much better than my first. I think that's because, unfortunately, and this is probably where education of GPs and nurses in GP clinics is really essential. I had a wonderful GP and some of the nurses who were changing my dressings back here in Brisbane were fantastic, but one of them didn't use an adhesive remover as she was pulling off. And so I thought I had an allergy to the tape, but it was actually ripping off the skin of the scar line, which I realized when it happened on the second leg because I was in pain immediately. And I was like, I don't think this is an allergy. So I feel like that has compromised the scar a little bit. It's a bit redder, it's bigger. But again, I've tried to keep things as simple as possible. So I will use like a urea-based moisturizer. I put a few drops of either my surgeon's cream or bio oil into that, mix it up, put it over my whole legs because that will then cover the liposuction scars. And then I found this little roller. It's like almost like a roller pen, and it's got a little roller on one side and then the silicone cream on the other. So I'll roll it over the scar line and then put the silicone over the top and alternate that with maybe a week with scar tape. So yeah. And I spoke to sort of a dermatologist and stuff about the longer term impacts of the scars, and they're like, we probably won't do anything till at least 12 months. So just giving it some time. And I bought a SPF 50 sarong to cover my legs in summer so it's not getting any sunlight at all, and just stuff like that. And they don't bother me. I'm like, it's just part of my journey.
Yeah.
And I think it's funny when people are like, oh, liposuction's cosmetic. I'm like, no,
not for us.
I mean, it is a nice benefit in that my legs, I feel, look to me nice. It reminds me of what my legs used to look like, but I do have 2 massive scars, and that's okay.
Yeah.
It's amazing when you see the scar when it's first, like you fresh out of surgery. And I think to myself, how in the world does that heal? And then you see them when it's healed, and it's just baffling that, yes, you can see and notice that there's a scar, but not really.
No, not for what's happened.
Not for what
the body is amazing at repairing itself. And like
it really is.
It's just the time. You've got to give it time. But our bodies are bloody amazing.
Yeah, thank goodness.
They are.
Yeah.
And that was one thing I was really shocked at, how fast my body healed the liposuction. Those staples were well and truly ready to come out before I got them out. They were almost being pushed out. So, I was quite surprised at that. And it did bring up,
will push them out.
Yeah. And it did build up a bit more respect for my body, those little moments. And that's actually something like I said, that having body respect and acceptance is the next piece, or I feel like the final piece of my puzzle that I'm working on at the moment.
And trust in her. She's gonna make sure you're all right.
Because that's actually a huge thing. I have not had trust in my body because it hasn't responded in the ways that I have wanted it or expected it to. So I'm actually starting to do hypnotherapy in the next few weeks. To relearn how to connect with my body, accept my body, and trust it. Because at the moment, we still have a bit of a fractured relationship.
Yeah. Well, we do. We build this disconnect from our bodies because we can't trust it. Yeah. Because it doesn't doesn't move, how we expect it to do. And
or how we think other people's do.
Yeah. And we completely disconnect.
Yeah, totally.
Might need to do some yoga, I think.
I did yoga for the first time for ages on Tuesday, and my flexibility is laughable compared, because I come from a dancing background. I used to be so flexible, and I was like, oh, it is so bad. Everything hurts, and it was beautiful.
You could not be as bad as I am, trust me.
It's just so humbling.
Really different. Yeah. No, I do like yoga, and I just do it with an app at home. And even post surgery, when I wasn't allowed to exercise, I did chair yoga for 10 minutes on this app. It was fantastic, and that was a really good reconnection moment as well. And I just avoided any of the leg stuff and just did upper body, and it just felt nice to move really gently.
That's a great idea for people who are post-surgery and they're not really supposed to move. Like, it's your lower half. There's stuff that you can do in your upper half, and always like moving with, connecting with the breath. Like, it's never a bad idea.
Yes. Yeah. And that helps with fluid movement and swelling as well. I found that the days that I did just literally 10 minutes, it just moved the fluid around a bit better. So it wasn't all sitting in my upper body, because I did notice that I suddenly was puffy, and so it really helps with that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And mentally. as well.
Yeah, the mental health.
It was a huge component for me as well, and making sure that I was mentally in a good place because
They
I
do
was
talk
quite
about like
frightened.
having the blues after surgery, a couple of days after surgery, but then they don't really talk about that you get the blues, it sort of extends out to as you recover. I think you are prepared for the swell hell going till like day 10, and then by day 10, I don't know, in my mind, I was like, it's, swell hell should be over by now, but you're still
Yeah.
struggling to recover. And like it doesn't compute in your brain, and so that blues sort of comes back because you're like, well, I thought I'd be all good after day 10.
It's like what Shell was saying before. I really learned very quickly that recovery is not linear, and I definitely noticed quite a significant mood drop on about week 3 both times, to the extent where I was calling my psychologist going, like, I'm just not feeling good at all. I did speak to a few lovely ladies in the lipedema community, and there definitely seems to be a common theme of this mood dropping around this time. And there was a bit of a discussion around what might be causing it. And apparently it could be as well like a hormonal rebalancing going on, where your body is dealing with the change of its structure with the lipedema fat reduced, and that hormonal change can really affect mood. So, and it was only about a week, but it was awful. It was really challenging. I was not a nice person to be around either. I was just, it was cranky, miserable, but then it just lifted. So it's
life
just
doesn't
traveling
stop.
through it.
No.
Feeling like that, you still got to show up.
Especially when, you've got young kids and you've just come back, and they, of course, don't understand that you can't do what you did before. It just has to take time. I think now they understand much, much more, especially after the second surgery. I found that part of it a bit easier. But it's just a long process. And even now I'm struggling with exercise. I'm just sort of returning to exercise now. And I was saying to my Pilates instructor, I'm so frustrated. Why are my arms sore? Why do I feel achy and tired? And she's like, I don't think you realize what your body has been through. And she's really good with the pep talk, self-compassion. She's like, you've got to understand this is a huge surgery, and people don't understand it either. Yeah, someone, I don't remember who it was, but they said, is it sort of like colonoscopy prep, like a colonoscopy? I'm like,
No, babe.
no. And even people sort of were shocked when I've said that. And this is part of the body reconnection thing, is that it's like I've got new legs. It's like someone's taken my old legs off and put new legs on, which is, it's just mentally, my brain has to catch up a little bit with that. So there's that component as well. But it's quite big.
It's massive.
Yeah.
And especially, because you went with Dr. Professor Cheyenne, and he does one leg at a time. And so you actually had the experience of a new leg and an old leg for 8 weeks or something, or longer. Yeah, that would be so weird. I could imagine for my head to see 2 different legs for that long.
I sort of weirdly got used to it. It wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be.
Yeah. Okay.
Luckily, it was during winter as well, so lots of nice wide leg pants. So not many people would have even known. Walking was very interesting as I was starting to get my fitness back up ready for the next surgery, because I did have a smaller gap than is recommended, because being in Queensland, he didn't want me coming back into the heat, which is already so hot here, as you know. Yeah. And walking was really interesting because it ended up, even though my I call it my new leg, had just been through surgery, it was dragging my old leg. So it was taking on the hard part of walking up a hill, but the old leg was dragging.
Lighter.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it was really interesting.
Yeah, that is. I'm just trying to, I suppose because my surgeries were done, like both of them were done at the same time incrementally. So I got my lowers done, but both, and then the uppers done.
Yeah.
And I'm just, it takes me a while to sort of picture that. But that kind of makes sense. Even though your new leg is recovering, it's still much lighter and like a little bit more agile than your old leg.
Definitely. It's that agility, I think, that you really do notice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, what an experience. I'm glad that you're at the end of that now. And so it's only up from here. Yeah.
And that,
like
again,
it's all recovery from here.
it's a big process. And even, again, a question I had last week was, when does this feeling of the swelling, I know we spoke about it, when does the swelling feeling start to subside? Because I'm going, is there something wrong? Why do my legs still feel so huge, like swollen? And particularly at the end of the day. And everyone has just said 12 to 18 months. This takes time.
Yeah.
It takes a long time. Yeah. And
it's hard to swallow because it feels like such an uphill battle. Like the acute sort of recovery post-surgery feels like such an uphill battle. And then you're like, oh, but it's extended, like it's long term, like 12 months. Bugger off.
And even I was like, oh, I'll be able to be out of compression and wear shorts and, without having to wear compression. I probably don't see myself really being out of it for at least 12 months because it doesn't feel that great without it at the moment too. It's almost like a supportive blanket, really. Yeah, so that's just something that I've learned and accepted.
Yeah. And you'll know when you could have some compression free time. And I'm not saying you'll wake up one morning and you'll be able to go free for a whole week, but like you could have a day over Christmas, like Christmas Day or, where you're enjoying yourself. And then you put it back on and you'll know when it is too much or you'll know if it feels good. You could go an extra day, you could do Boxing Day,
Yeah. And that's sort of what I'm starting to do a little bit. Like if I've got, like for my birthday, I really didn't want to wear compression under my dress. So I just wore some shorts to help that sort of upper thigh area. And then later on I put them on in the car on the way home. But they felt actually pretty good. And one amazing outcome from surgery, which is one of the main motivating factors, was that I could not stand for any significant period of time. Like 5 minutes standing was torture. What really sort of sealed the deal for surgery, and it took me 5 years to sort of decide that I was going to do this. I think I cancelled 3 bookings in a row each year, was that going on holidays with the family, by the afternoon, I'd have to come back to the room. I wouldn't be able to participate in whatever they were doing because I had to put my legs up. My feet would be extremely swollen and painful. I had bruising all over my toes from wearing closed-in shoes because I swelled that much. And that's just the secondary lymphedema caused by the lipedema. And my husband's like, can't live like this. And so sort of we decided to start saving many years ago for it, and also me deciding to fit it in with the kids and what they were doing. So I was wanting to do it before my youngest started school, and my eldest is not in high school yet, so it was just the right time. And I'm really glad that I've done it because even my husband's like, even after the first surgery, we went to a school event and he's like, do you realize how long you just stood? He almost has to make me sit down now because I find standing and walking really comfortable. So it's very different, very different. But very grateful that I've been able to do it. Yeah.
All right, Ash, we are up to our last question.
Oh, I hope I haven't took your ears off.
No, not at all.
That's the point, Ash.
Well, yeah, you're here to talk to us. All right, if you could go back and give your younger self a pep talk, what would you tell her?
Well, it makes me quite emotional when you ask that question.
Yeah.
I would tell her to just be a little gentler on herself. I wish she would know about lymphedema, but hopefully the work that you guys and others do will make that happen for other young women. And so then I would have been able to do things that might have made life easier and better now. And it's certainly something I look at my daughters, which I have 2 daughters, and I don't want to make them hyper aware or hyper focused on you might have this, but also in a healthy way, trying to educate them that this is a possibility. Respecting their bodies, I think, is a big thing. I would love to take away the guilt, but it still sits there. So that's really difficult. Yeah, just being a little bit more gentle and soft with myself. And
that's good advice for everybody. Yeah, we do.
It's, of course, easier said than done. But
absolutely.
Yeah.
We're all still learning that.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your story. We wish you, recovery for the next few months, and let's hope you can be compression free. Enjoy some compression free days.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.
Pleasure.
You're most welcome. Bye, Ash.
Bye.
Bye.
The Lipoedema Podcast 2025 is powered by Elegance Lymphatic Care. Lipoedema and its symptoms vary from individual to individual. The opinions and advice voiced in this podcast are of a personal nature and used for educational purposes.
Please take away from this podcast what resonates with you, and please see your GP or preferred specialist for diagnosis and healthcare. We are Shelley and Tiana from the Lipoedema Podcast. Until our next episode, bye for now.